Everybody. Hey, Blissful. Um, Not sure if I'm going to be having anybody on here tonight with me. I did message Candace and Chris, but I know Candace was having to take her mother to have some surgery done today. And I'm not sure about Chris. I hadn't heard anything from either one of them, so they may both be busy, which is fine. I can go through these movies by myself. It probably won't be as long as some of these if I go through them by myself. Um, but if anybody comes in here while I'm discussing these and you want to come on and discuss one or more of these that I'm going to be talking about tonight, feel free to let me know and I'll make sure that you get the link. Um, I'm still planning on doing Everybody Wants England tomorrow night. Me and TJ should be covering the last 6 episodes of Creepshow season 4. And then after that, we're going to have to switch gears and cover something else until they get another season of Creepshow out in its entirety so that we can watch that and talk about those. Thursday, I'm hopefully gonna finally be doing the triple threat review show that I've been putting off for a couple of weeks, where I'll be talking about Bloody Moon, Bloody Birthday, Bloody Moon, and Blowout. Brian De Palma, a Brian De Palma film, Blowout. Sorry, I've been a little tired today, but not so wiped out I couldn't do this stream. Friday will be another Terror Time tea, and I will be talking about He Knows You're Alone, and I will also be talking about Hell Night for Terror Time tea. That should be about 11:45 a.m. on Friday. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, Candace and I will return with another Friday Foolish, and we will be talking about cheesy 80s horror films on Friday at 1. Will not be any watch alongs this weekend and no movie munchies. This gal is taking the weekend off to spend a little extra time with her husband and also to try to get things done that I've kind of been putting on the back burner as far as my shop and all the different things that I'm wanting to do for the shop, which brings me to something else that I have decided to do in addition to the t-shirts and the candles and the booga booga bears and the tumblers and all of that good stuff. I have also decided to eventually offer teas, teas that I will be blending myself. I've already got some ideas for some candles and some teas. So, and the teas, if you order one of the Terror Time teas, and Candace helped me come up with that, and I think that was genius because I do Terror Time tea. So my tea blends are going to be called Terror Time teas. And they're going to be different flavors of teas. And hopefully they will all have a horror theme to them. Thank you, Batman. You said that's good, Dana, that you're taking a break. We don't need you to get pooped out. Well, this is the way I'm going to be doing it from here on out. Watch alongs and movie munchies will be every other weekend. So even though I'm not doing one or those this weekend, the following weekend I will be. And I already have a recipe lined up for the movie munchies. And that's going to be Norma Bates cinnamon rolls So, and it's going to be adapted from a recipe my mom used all the time I was growing up. And these things are absolutely delicious. Okay. Um, Blissful, you say you're so excited for the tea. Well, I am too. I'm excited for all this. Something else Candace said to me is she said, you should make a Robert England inspired tea. And then when you meet him this September, you could bring him some of the tea. So I came up with England's elderberry spice. And what that's going to have is, of course, elderberry in it. But I'm thinking about mixing some cinnamon in there as well. And we're going to see how that turns out. Elderberry is also supposed to be good for your immune system as well. I've also got Leatherface's lemongrass, Maniac mint, and I'll probably offer the Maniac mint in either spearmint or peppermint or just maybe a plain mint. But definitely spearmint and peppermint will be on there. Hey, Chris. Blissful, you say it sounds delicious. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. One of the other ones I've got is Angela's Honey Bee Sting, which will be basically a honeysuckle tea and maybe a little surprise mixed in with that honeysuckle. And that is, of course, taken from the first sleepaway camp where someone is killed by being stung by many, many bees. Now, some of the candle scents I've come up with, Freddy's Nightmare, which will be a marshmallow scented candle, which, uh, which can you guess why I called it Freddy's Nightmare? Because we roast marshmallows, right? That's essentially what the parents did to Freddy Krueger. Ooh. Yeah, I don't like that either, Batman. Henrietta Honeysuckle, from Evil Dead 2. I'm going to be doing that one. Deadite Forest, which will be cedar scented. Evil Dead Cabin, I'm going to have some kind of rustic scent. Michael Myers Pumpkin Spice and Jason's Campfire. I see where you corrected that, Batman. I was a little confused by that, but that's okay. But anyway, just letting people know what's going to be coming down the pipeline as far as candle scents and tea flavors. That's your rant for the day, Batman. All right. So let's go ahead and get started talking about these movies. Um, the first one, it had been many years. I think this one came out in 2004. Riding the Bullet. Whistle says Dana's going to replace Bath and Body Works for me. I don't know if it's going to be that good. I love me some Bath and Body Works. I think to replace Bath and Body Works, I'd probably have to be doing lotions and all kinds of good stuff. Body sprays. um, I don't know if I should press my luck on that. But Riding the Bullet stars Jonathan Jackson and Barbara Hershey. We also have David Arquette on this as well. And like I said, this had been many, many years since I had seen it. So, of course, I had to refresh myself on it today. Um, so it takes place in October 30th, 1969, the day before Halloween. I think this was filmed in Canada, but it's supposed to take place at the University of Maine, where I believe Stephen King went to college. And probably where he taught, because I think he did teach some college classes. I think he taught high school classes as well. Who's making tea, Uncle Bill? That would be me, this girl. Um, Blissful, you say body sprays dry out the skin, use lotion. Good tip. I use both. I probably shouldn't. know what that noise was. I don't know if it was one of my animals back there or what. I'm always hearing something. Um, Actually, I'm going to be making me some tea later and putting in my new teacup with the little Dead Pit's Titty Tea. Well, if I could do that, Uncle Bill, I wonder what kind of taste or flavor or whatever we would put in that. Milk tea. Okay. Um, I'm going to be making a lot of herbal teas because I'm going to be blending them myself. But um, if Wes would allow me to use the name Dead Pit, I would certainly come up with something though. Batman, you say it puts the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. Okay. But anyway, back to Riding the Bullet. So, um, this is a very unusual film based on Stephen King's work, and I can hear Uncle Bill groaning now. It is directed by Mick Garris, but let me tell you something, guys and gals. The atmosphere on this movie is fantastic. And it's also, during the majority of the film, I was kept on edge all the time because there were always things going on. And you didn't know what was real and what wasn't real, what was in uh, Alan, that's Jonathan Jackson's character's mind, and what wasn't. Um, so he was planning, it's his birthday, and he was going to kill himself in the bathtub. He does actually slash his wrist because he thinks his girlfriend wants to break up with him and all this stuff. But really, what she said she was doing was she was trying to plan for his surprise party. Um, he ends up in the hospital with his arm bandaged up or his wrist bandaged up and all that. And so she gives him tickets to see John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band, which anybody that knows anything about John Lennon and Yoko Ono during 1969, um, they were performing a lot. And they had their own band, the Plastic Ono Band. So she had given him tickets to go to Toronto and see them perform. So him and a couple of friends were going to go. And he gets a call that his mother has had a stroke. His mother is played by Barbara Hershey on the film. Um, Uncle Bill, you say you actually liked this when you saw it a few years ago for the first time. Yeah, it had been many, many years since I had seen it, I think, when it first came out. We also have little nods to other Stephen King stories in this. There's a Plymouth Fury that shows up at various points throughout the film. That, of course, ties back to Christine. Um, at near the end of the film, when he finally goes to see his mother in the hospital, um, Cynthia Garris, Mick Garris's wife, plays Nurse Annie Wilkes, which actually ties back to Misery. And so I really like those nods to other Stephen King um, works. And so this one is really, really good. It keeps you on edge, but it also has that timeless quality. Really, I feel like it captured that 1960s quality on a smaller scale. It was almost a coming of age story too, because at the end, of course, Alan is an older man. He's entering, not elderly, but he's entering into, when a lot of people would get a midlife crisis, probably. Although he doesn't. And I love that it covers, different from when he was a little boy and his father died, and how his mother had lied to him about how his father had died in a car accident, and that wasn't the case, that his father committed suicide. And the imagery is very, very unsettling through the majority of the film. Just when you're calming down from one thing, something else happens. And very quick cuts, but at the end of the film, it ties up everything with a neat little bow. And we even have a post credit sequence, or a mid credit sequence, where the older Alan is walking down the road in the Plymouth Fury with David Arquette in it as George Staub, pulls up and asks him if he wants a ride. And he says, "No, I think I'll walk." And George speeds away, and he says, "And take your button and get out of here," or something, is what Alan says. And the button he's referring to is a button for the Bullet, which was a roller coaster that a lot of people wanted to ride, and that Alan wanted to ride. But there's a scene where he was waiting with his mother in the line. They'd been waiting a long time. He had been bugging her to go on this Bullet roller coaster with him. And so he all of a sudden doesn't want to, because he has some kind of vision that something bad is going to happen. And she just smacks him on the back of the head, because she's just so angry that she's wasted all this time. Then they get up there, and then he doesn't want to ride it. But we also had Mick Garris show up near the end of the film as a doctor. And there's some funny things, there's some scary things, there's some heartwarming things in this. So it's got a lot of different layers and a lot of different elements in it. And what riding the bullet eventually refers to is when we die. When we die, we ride the bullet. We ride the roller coaster. So I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed going back and watching it. I highly, highly recommend this one. And by the way, Uncle Bill, since you liked it, do you want to come on here live and talk about it? Maybe give a rating on it? Batman, you say, I rewatched Zodiac this morning, and I was pretty sure that Arthur Lee Allen was a Zodiac killer, but there's no way of proving it. Yeah, the Zodiac killer is one of those, pretty much those unsolved cases. But I'm going to go ahead and give my review for Riding the Bullet. You can watch this on Tubi, by the way. I think I have it on DVD, but I was too lazy to go find mine. So I am going to give, I think I'm going to have to, where am I? I know people think that I'm a little heavy handed with these 5 deadites out of 5, but really, due to all the different elements to this film, and the fact that I enjoyed it so much rewatching it this time around, that I gotta give it 5 deadites out of 5, just because I enjoyed it so well, and I actually want to wait a little bit and go back and watch it here after I've waited a little while. I want to let this viewing sink in. Uncle Bill, you said I would, but I only remember a few scenes now. Well, that's okay. If you change your mind before I'm off of here, I'd be glad to have you on. So, moving on to Desperation. I did not rewatch Desperation, so I'm going from memory. Hold on just 1 second. Here we go. This came out in 2006. It's listed as a drama, fantasy, horror. This one was directed by Mick Garris as well. So Mick Garris was on a roll about this time with Stephen King stuff. And we have a good cast. We've got Tom Skerritt, we got Steven Weber, we got Annabeth Gish, um, Charles Durning, Matt Frewer, Henry Thomas, Ron Perlman's in this. And Stephen King himself was an executive producer on this one. Here's the basic plot for this movie. When a sheriff arrests a writer, a family, a couple, and a hitchhiker and throws them in a jail cell in the deserted town of Desperation, they must fight for their lives. And that's your basic plot for this one. But, usually I like the Mick Garris stuff. But my recollection of this is I wasn't too fond of this one. This was kind of like Rose Red and stuff like that was for me. It wasn't a horrible movie, but if I was to be honest, this wasn't one of the better Stephen King novels. And that's very difficult for me to say because I love Stephen King's writing. But I didn't really get lost in the novel Desperation. So, the film, the TV film adaptation, I just thought was kind of hokey and silly. I mean, I guess it was scary at times as much as something on television can be scary. But the stuff with the sheriff and what he was, what he became, and all of that was just not my cup of tea. And so, would I recommend you watch it? Well, yeah, if you can find it for free, yeah, go ahead and take a gander. But this is really about the time that I think that the Stephen King miniseries or made for television films kind of slid off the map a little bit, or were starting to slide off the map. The stories that were told were not meaty enough, I don't think. They were sort of thin, and maybe they should have picked something else to make a TV movie out of. Hey, Gorphobe. But, like I said, I didn't hate it, and I enjoyed the book itself for what it was. But if I had to pick one of my least favorite Mick Garris adaptations, this one will probably be it. And I know Uncle Bill's probably groaning about that too. But based on all that, I would have to give Desperation 3 Deadites out of 5. It's just middle of the road. It's just kind of for me. And maybe I need to go give it another try. Like I said, I'm going from memory of the last time I saw it, which it has been a little bit. But moving on to the last one, which was Nightmares and Dreamscapes, came out in 2006. And it comprised 8 different episodes with stories taken from the book of the same name, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And I'm going to briefly talk about. Oh, and by the way, this also came out on TNT. The first episode date was July 12th, 2006. So I know that this first one's going to to sound kind of strange. Richard Christian Matheson was the writer. It was directed by Brian Henson. And like I said, it was taken from the Nightmares and Dreamscapes book of short stories. So it's about a hitman. A hitman. Y'all follow me here? Kills the owner of a toy factory only to receive a package containing a set of toy soldiers bent on revenge. Now, the story is good. It stars William Hurt as the hitman. And Agoraphobe, you say these are three that you have not seen a lot, to be honest. Yeah. We're kind of getting into the area of Stephen King stuff that a lot of people can't say they've seen, but I want to cover as much stuff as I can. Um, just so if you're interested in going back and checking these out. And by the way, all the segments are on YouTube in case you want to check them out. So William Hurt plays this hitman. He kills this uh, uh, owner of a toy factory. And then he takes this little ballerina fairy like doll and brings it back to his home. And he also gets a package, which is basically a like a footlocker with these what appears to be these soldiers, these toy soldiers, who proceed to come to life and come after him. It's kind of like a Evil Dead, like a Army of Darkness scenario where you had all the little ashes attacking the main ash. So it's kind of like that. And well, what weren't really any dolls in here except maybe briefly at the beginning. um, but the little soldiers that come out of this footlocker and attack William Hurt's character are kind of creepy. So they essentially chase this guy all over the place, and he kills some of them, chops some of them up, and does different things. It appears that he may have been in the military at one time because the way he's got this really unique looking pool inside of his house, and he like goes underwater and stuff like that. But they end up essentially blowing William Hurt's character up, and how they do it with a thermonuclear device that was also in this footlocker. And you see where the label is peeled up a little bit, and it says surprise bonus thermonuclear bomb or something like that. Agoraphobia said that's a good idea. Too many of the same films are covered over and over. I'm guilty of it too. But it's cool to step into some unfamiliar water sometimes. I agree. And sometimes I do cover the same stuff that's been covered ad nauseum. I mean, so I'm guilty of it as well. But I like to mix and match as well. So that's Battleground. That's the first segment. Um, so the second one is sort of like, it reminds me of like an H.P. Lovecraft type of story. So hold on here. So an American couple in London gets lost in an abandoned part of the city where a terrifying Lovecraftian dimension seeps into our own, which we've got monsters, H.P. Lovecraft type monsters. This couple goes into an area of London called Crouch End, and they keep getting warned that don't go there. The taxi driver and other people around town tell them don't go to Crouch End, but they end up going to Crouch End, and at the beginning of the story, the wife is in a police station, and she's telling the officer, my husband disappeared in Crouch End. Then it goes into their story, how they were just so much in love. The husband was a lawyer, I believe, and so I think they went to meet friends in Crouch End, but they never find those friends. And so you've got the H.P. Lovecraft type monsters coming out of the ground. You have other horrifying things are showing up. It's almost like you're on drugs during a lot of the episode. And then at the end, we're back to the police station uh, with the wife, and she's again, she asked the officer, "Why do you keep asking me the same things? I've already told you my husband disappeared in Crouch End, and this cat, and you saw this cat before, and you don't realize it at first until you see its face, and there's like looks like big chunks of skin taken out around its eye. And this was something that she saw when her and her husband were in Crouch End. And so this cat jumps and scares her, makes her drop her mug of tea or whatever they've given her. I assume it's tea because it's London. And he says, the cop says, "Yeah, he's not a bad sort, really." He says he's usually not bad at all. And he said, "Are you Lonnie?" And Lonnie was her husband's name. And she said, "What did you call him?" And he says, "We call the cat Lonnie. We just found him this morning." And so evidently her husband must be inside this cat now. And so that was like the last shot you see, a close up of this cat. Blissful, you say, I found H.P. Lovecraft Sleep Stories. It's a cool channel. Ooh, that is neat. If you're sending out links, Blissful, be sure to send me the link. I'd like to check that out too. Okay, so the next one is Umney's Last Case. When author Sam Landry's son dies, he writes himself into a book and forces his lead character to switch places with him. And so his lead character is like one of those film noir type of detectives, private detectives. And I really enjoyed this. And you could tell that a writer wrote this particular story for sure, that it wasn't a filmmaker doing this, because you could clearly tell it was taken from a novelist perspective. And I really, really liked that because I could tell that Stephen King put a lot of himself into this, from that writing perspective. So, we're batting 1,000 with these, or in my eyes, we're batting 1,000 with the Nightmare and Dreamscapes stories. So the next episode is the end of the whole mess. This is kind of a creepy one. But I really, really liked it. It's one of my favorite ones. So there's a young genius played by Henry Thomas. The character's name is Bobby Fornoy. So he invents a cure for human violence. Hatred is replaced with love, but it can be costly. And what turns out to happen is people start to become senile because of this cure for violence. Because at first everybody's happy and there's no more wars. All the world is getting along. And then you notice the world leaders essentially getting senile, and then everybody else starts getting senile. And so then there's only um, Bobby's brother, the documentary filmmaker, who is using his last hours to tell the story of what happened when his brother created this cure for violence. So, very simple story essentially, but this was probably my favorite of all of them. Um, but very eerie, very unsettling, because everybody would like to find a cure for human violence, but we wouldn't want to have that kind of cost associated with it. So the next episode is The Road Virus Heads North, and a horror writer buys a painting on his way home. As he drives, the painting changes to something more sinister. Uh, this one was pretty cool too. I like the horror writer aspect of it. I like these stories too because they remind me a lot of the old Tales from the Dark Side, Twilight Zone from the 80s, all those different types of anthology television shows. Um, and so definitely, we're still batting 1,000 here. The next episode is The Fifth Quarter. So in this one, an ex-convict finds part of a map that, when all the pieces are put together, reveals the location of a fortune. But you know that this is, excuse me, this is a Stephen King story, so all is not what it seems. And Stephen King stories very rarely end happily. Yes, Blissful. That The Nightmares and Dreamscapes was an excellent book of stories. Thank you, Blissful. Um, so the next episode, the next to last episode, is Autopsy Room 4. A man is bitten by a snake and he's thought to be dead. Unable to wake up, he witnesses his own autopsy. Now, I know, this has been done before in various movies and probably other stories, but I still like the aspect of it, of someone waking up, they're unable to move or talk or anything or tell anybody, hey, I'm still around here. Don't cut on me. Don't start using the bone saw on me and taking my brain out and all that stuff. So I really like those type of stories where someone is trapped and can't get out of something that's soon going to be very, very horrifying for them. Which brings us to the last episode. They got a hell of a band. And so a couple played by Stephen Weber and Kim Delaney discovered that the residents of a small town share a deadly secret. Now, we've seen this in a lot of um, different stories and movies and stuff like that. And but I still really, really liked it. And did not, I didn't find it boring. I did not find it unnecessary or anything like that. I found all of these stories, in fact, to be very, very good. So a little bit more about, they got a hell of a band, because you might be thinking, oh, Dana, that's not much to go on. So, and by the way, Richard Thomas was on Autopsy Room 4. So the couple, Kim Delaney and Stephen Weber, ignore the advice of a mysterious Cece, I maybe mispronounced that, played by Jacinta Stapleton, and get lost in a strange place called Rock and Roll Heaven, where ghosts of rock and roll legends roam. And I bet, I'm willing to bet that Blissful really liked this one. They did. I do remember that clearly, that they did an amazing job casting Janice. No, agoraphobe, you cannot go wrong with Janis Joplin. I definitely agree with that. So, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, I'm gonna have to give it 5 deadites out of 5 as well, because I so much enjoyed um this one. It really hit all the bases. There weren't any of the stories that I disliked in this one. I think there's pretty much something for everyone in this. So I would highly recommend watching Nightmares and Dreamscapes and reading the book by Stephen King if you have not. And again, you can find Nightmares and Dreamscapes in its entirety. Oh, goodness. On YouTube. You can watch Riding the Bullet on Tubi. And I'm not sure about Desperation because I didn't actually try to go hunt that up. But I guess that's all she wrote for me. I usually go on about 45 minutes or so when I'm doing these by myself. There you go, Blissful. You'll drink your Terror Time tea from Janice's teacup. That would be awesome. And speaking of it, I don't know if I showed this on the show at all, but hold on, let me show something since we're talking about tea. I think Blissful and Candace might have been the only ones that had actually seen pictures of this. But this is one of the teacups that I'm going to be using. Hopefully, y'all can see the little skull in there. But this is the teacup I recently got in and comes with its own little saucer. And I just think this is just the coolest thing ever. And probably what I'm going to do is alternate between the teacup. Whoops. I'm trying to show y'all that. The teacup with the skull in there, and the one that's got my creature cup that's got a skull raised up down at the bottom of the teacup. You said the picture didn't do it justice. That's beautiful. I know. I'm just like, I'm so afraid that I'm going to drop it and break it, and then I'll probably cry because I can't afford to get a new one right now. But yeah, I'm loving the new teacups. Steve was like, "Now you're getting into tea," and I was like, "Well, I always did like tea. I'm just Now I'm just incorporating it into my live streams." So I'll probably give it maybe another minute or so. Pinky up. Yeah, that's right. But I'll probably stay on here another minute or so in case anybody wants to ask me anything or bring up anything. I do have the new schedule out, the video version of the schedule, in case you want to, get on the channel and figure out what I'm covering for the rest of the week. So I've got that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've forgotten to mention. And hopefully by this weekend, because I'll have the whole weekend free, I'll really have some stuff put up on the Deadites on Deck shop. And I'll put that link for the shop, which is just deaditesondeck.com. It's my new horror-based shop. And there's going to be a lot of things on there eventually. There's going to be t-shirts. There's going to be the Booga Booga Bears are already on there. T-shirts, tumblers, hopefully some coffee mugs, Terror Time teas. candles. So go out and tell all your friends and neighbors and relatives, whoever you think might be interested in some of this stuff. And also, um, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content I'm putting out. Also, tell friends and family. Even tell your enemies if you think it's something that they might like. I'm just kidding. Um, Blitzel, you say, has a series been chosen that you and TJ will be covering? I think we bounced around a few ideas. Erie, Indiana, I think was one that we talked about, and I think we had talked about Freddy's Nightmares. I'm probably going to have to talk that over with him again. Blissell's got, she says candles, and then she's got the emoji with the heart shaped eyeballs. But on that note, I guess I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, but I want to thank everybody for coming in here and listening to me talk about these Stephen King film adaptations. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night for Everybody Wants England. And if you're not sure of the movies that I'm covering, you can check out the schedule on the channel for this week. Thank you, Super Batman Nerd. And thank you, Chris. Chris says, great stream, Dana. Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says, great live. But be sure to tune in for that tomorrow night, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And now I really am going to get out of here. But I just want to remind you to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. I'm out of here, folks. I'll see everybody next time.